Despite political differences between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Joe Biden, the war in Gaza reaffirmed that the US and Israel are as closely allied as ever. US officials reiterated their unwavering support for Israel, diplomatically, financially, and militarily. However, as Israel's war in Gaza has prompted mounting human rights concerns, the United States gradually stepped up its criticism of the Israeli government, while simultaneously continuing to arm its ally.
We're surging additional military assistance, including ammunition and interceptors, to replenish Iron Dome. We're going to make sure that Israel does not run out of these critical assets to defend its cities and its citizens.
Let's take a look at some key events and evolution of Washington's position over time. Shortly after the Hamas attack on Israel, Biden delivered a message of uncompromising support to the U.S. ally, while warning other parties against entering the war.
The United States is disappointed this resolution made no mention of Israel's rights of self-defense.
On the 18th of October, United States vetoed a United Nations Security Council resolution that would have called for a humanitarian pause in the fighting. The US was the sole vote against the proposal, with 12 members voting in favor and Russia and the United Kingdom abstaining. On the 8th of December last year, the US vetoed a UN Security Council measure that would have urged an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. Biden appears to criticize Israel's offensive in Gaza.
Conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. There are a lot of innocent people who are starving, a lot of innocent people who are in trouble and dying, and it's got to stop.
Addressing a press conference on the 12th of February 2024, US President Joe Biden warned Israel against a planned offensive into Gaza's Rafah city, where fleeing Palestinians have taken refuge.
Major military operation in Rafah should not proceed without a credible plan for ensuring the safety and support of more than 1 million people sheltering there. Many people there have been displaced multiple times, fleeing the violence to the north, and now they're packed into Rafah, exposed and vulnerable. They need to be protected.
The White House said an operation in Rafah should not move ahead without a credible plan to protect the civilians sheltering there. Biden also said the U.S. will not support any operation that failed to account for the safety of the Palestinians who fled there on Israel's orders.
The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
The U.S. vetoed another UN Security Council ceasefire resolution. After vetoing 3 prior UN resolutions on Gaza, U.S. saw its own ceasefire proposal rejected.
By adopting the resolution before us, we can put pressure on Hamas to accept the deal on the table.
The United States proposed a United Nations Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire tied to the release of hostages in Gaza. It failed to pass after Russia and China vetoed the draft in March. And then came Israel's shocker.
We did not agree with everything in the resolution. For that reason, we were unfortunately not able to vote yes.
On the 25th of March, the UN Security Council passed a resolution that called for a ceasefire in Gaza during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The United States abstained from the UN vote, prompting the Israeli Prime Minister to cancel a delegation to Washington. Netanyahu's office called it a clear retreat from the consistent position of the United States. Tensions have been rising between Israel and the United States over the pace and scope of humanitarian aid that is reaching the Palestinians, who are facing imminent starvation on a large scale. The Biden-Netanyahu relationship has also unraveled in the past months as frustration inside the White House mounts over what American officials regard as Netanyahu's rejection of the U.S. advice on the war in Gaza.
Netanyahu has done everything he can thus far to reject the ceasefire, and so has President Biden. Reality is that Biden and Netanyahu's objectives here should be diverging. But Biden has deferred to Netanyahu for the last 7 months. Netanyahu has an interest in enlarging the war and prolonging the war, because the minute this war ends, so will his political career, and it will be also the moment in which his prison sentence most likely will begin. So he has no interest in actually de-escalation, diplomacy, or a ceasefire. And the question is, if those are the interests of the United States, then at some point, Biden has to put U.S. interests ahead of that of Israel and Israel.